Why is it that bitches be like, hey, what's the price for this nail set? And they show you some decked out nails with lots of motherfucking stones, with fucking flowers, encapsulated glitter, encapsulated flowers, and everything else. Want some decked out bougie ass motherfucking nails. But then you give them the price and they expect a long, extra long set to be super cheap. Then they want to go off telling you, oh no, I know somebody that can do it for $25, $35. Bitch, then why the fuck you hitting me up for? If you can go and get that shit for $25, $35, go ahead. Go ahead. But yet, you want to hit a bitch up like the next day and be like, oh girl, can you get me in, please? Because, I want to see if you can fix my nails. I went and got him somewhere else. No, bitch. No, I can't. Okay? No, I can't. Go back to your $25, $35 person and have them fix it. We invest in our time. We invest in our material, trying to give you the best quality that, we can for your service. Remember, you guys want something to come out bomb ass. Look at our work. Obviously, you wouldn't be asking if your $25 or $35 girl could do a great ass fucking job. So, the fuck out of here. Get you a good nail tech. She's worth it, and I bet you the bitch will squeeze you in when you need to go get in for an emergency. Get it together, bitch, because nobody got time for that shit.
Okay, so these are definitely one of my favorite sets from her. This was a freestyle set, and every nail is unique in its own way. And I like that we like to add a bunch of 3D-esque art. I don't know how to say it actually. I think this is definitely my favorite nail. And then this is the other side. I love this one because they look like eyeballs. And that was just like not on purpose. And then from the side for like that one. Then we added the pearls on them just for fun. Just like, once again, it's a freestyle set, $25. She does tattoos also. And this is a tattoo she did on me, and I love it. And this set is one of the first ones she did for me from when I went to Coachella. One of my favorites also. These are some of the nails that she did, and I'm going to put her at right somewhere on the screen.
I live with a roommate and her 3-year-old child. My roommate is a 4th-year medical student and is really struggling, having to balance with the child, intense study workload, chores and part-time jobs to afford rent, babysitter and necessities. On the day of the biggest exam of her entire degree, her babysitter canceled last minute. She was absolutely frantic and hysterically called every one of her contacts to help. Of course, she asked me. She has asked me to babysit before and I always give her stern no. It's not the time that I need to spend, since I'm perfectly fine with swapping around chores, but the principle that I must be responsible for the child for the duration. For example, if the child hurts himself, no matter how badly, it would be on me. And I refuse to take the responsibility for something like that, so I always refuse to babysit. She begged and begged me, and since the journey to her exam is almost 2 hours away and she needed to go now, she just said, I don't fucking care, and left the house. Frankly, I found this quite disrespectful as it's trying to push me to babysit without my consent. Right after she left, I grabbed my coat and also left. She was starting her car when she saw me and asked what I was doing. I told her that I was going to watch a movie. I lied. I just refused to babysit without consent. Her eyes dropped and I could see the tears forming as she started begging me more to help her. I still explained the same thing, that it's not the time or effort, but the responsibility. She told me that she would sign a waiver that states that I'm 100% not responsible no matter what happens. Really struggling. I'm not an expert in law, but I'm not sure if a waiver is even legally enforceable. Even so, it still carries a responsibility on the day of the biggest exam of her entire degree. Eventually, she became quiet and started sobbing while hitting herself. She was absolutely frantic and hysterically called every one of her contacts to help. That does not involve babysitting the child. She told me to fuck off, so I did, and I always went to watch a movie. It's not the time that I need to spend, since I'm perfectly fine with swapping around chores, but the principle that I must be responsible for the child for the duration. So, for example, if the child hurts himself, no matter how badly, it would be on me. Since I refuse to take the responsibility for something like that, so I always refused to babysit, and always she begged and begged me, and since the journey to her exam was a little bit 2 hours away and she needed to go now, I know the exam just said, I don't fucking care, and left the house. Frankly, I found this quite disrespectful as it's trying to push me to babysit without my consent. Right after she left, I grabbed my coat and also left. She was starting her car when she saw me and asked what I was doing. I told her that I was going to watch a movie. So my daughter, 16, has had a best friend named Mare since she was 9 years old. They were so close that Mare had a key to our house and everything. Sometimes she would come over when my daughter wasn't even around because that's how close she was to the rest of our family. She even went with us to family reunions. Well, recently, Mare got a boyfriend. She would bring him around our house sometimes, and I could tell that my daughter had a crush on him. But I assumed it was a small innocent crush and nothing would come of it. Well, one day, Mare pulled into our driveway like a crazy woman and accidentally hit our garage. When I came out, she had boxes of stuff and was shaking so bad that she could barely walk. When I looked inside the boxes, they were all my daughter's stuff from over the years. I'm talking about toys that she still had from when they were 9. I didn't know what happened, but I could tell that she was distraught, so I helped her get all the boxes out of the car and pulled her inside for a cup of tea. After about 15 minutes, she said, "Did you know?" Turns out that my daughter had slept with her boyfriend multiple times and that she found out by a voicemail my daughter left on her boyfriend's phone, and Mare saw and listened to it. When I confronted my daughter, she had no defense. I asked her what was next, and she said that she was going to get with him, because if she didn't, then they ruined 2 relationships for nothing. I was and still am appalled, and that was 5 months ago. Soon my family and I are going on a family vacation, and all my other children's partners are invited. However, I told my daughter that hers wasn't. She blew up at me and then cried, asking when I'm ever going to forgive her. I told her it would have been one thing if she had slept with her boyfriend once. It still would have been terrible, but at least she could have learned from her mistake and grown. Instead, she slept with him multiple times, and the fact that she's still dating him proves that she isn't sorry for what she did. My husband says that this treatment of her relationship is only going to cause strain on our own, but I just can't believe how selfish and cruel she's become. I've spent thousands of dollars on this trip. I think I have the right not to invite people I don't want there. And I'm sorry if 5 months of her new boyfriend isn't going to erase the 7 years of friendship with Mare. I still talk to Mare sometimes, and she's doing a lot better now, but when it first happened, her mental health was ruined. And even as she's doing better and going to therapy, the mental effects of this level of betrayal is probably going to last years to fully get over. She says she's still hurt by what happened. Every time I look at my daughter, I'm honestly disgusted. This is not the type of person I raised her to be, and she's not sorry for any of it. I refuse to walk around on eggshells around my daughter and her boyfriend for a vacation I'm paying for and chaperoning for. Just seeing them together makes me sick. And by disgusted, I meant her decision making, not her as a whole, because despite everything, she's still my child. Also, I've learned to be cordial around the boyfriend when she's talking about him, but anything beyond that I've been struggling with. Am I the asshole for not accepting my child's relationship? He assaulted her at least 3,000 times in those 24 years, which resulted in her birthing 7 children. She gave birth to all her children with no medical help for almost 12 years. Joseph provided her with just a disinfectant, a dirty pair of scissors, and a book on childbirth. One of her children died prematurely due to difficulty breathing just 3 days after his birth in 1996. When the baby started to come, Elizabeth tried to end it all, but looking at her kids, she had purpose to live after the initial years of being alone. Joseph held control over her by threatening to end the lives of her and her children if they ever tried to escape. He would also turn off the lights in the basement for days on end so that she'd be in complete darkness. 3 of her children were in the basement with her, while the other 3 mysteriously appeared on the doorstep of Joseph and Rosemary, Elizabeth's mother, as per his planning. He doctored letters to Rosemary from Elizabeth saying that she was well but couldn't take care of the children. One day, Elizabeth's oldest daughter, Kirsten, who was 19 at the time, became extremely ill and needed immediate hospitalization. This is when Elizabeth pleaded with her father to get Kirsten medical attention. Joseph Fritzl, who had never shown mercy in those 24 years, surprisingly took Kirsten to the hospital. This is when things took a turn.
Story time about how my mom got with my sister's boyfriend. So a little background information. I was 13 and in 8th grade, and my sister was a senior in high school and she was 17. And my sister always had a new boyfriend. Like after 3 months of dating somebody, they would break up and then she would be with a new guy a month later. And this started whenever she was a sophomore. So yeah, she had a lot of boyfriends. Anyway, so she had started dating this boy, and we're gonna call him Ben. Well, lucky for Ben, whenever they started dating was right around the time when we were supposed to go on our vacation that we take every year. So my mom and dad said that he could come with us. So my sister, who we're gonna call Emily, she decided to bring Ben, and I decided to bring one of my friends, Carly. We drove down, everything was good for the first 2 days, and usually what would happen on this vacation is my dad would end up staying at the hotel and doing work while we were all out doing stuff. So my mom, Ben, and Emily were all out drinking at the bar 24/7. Like for part 2. Story time about the girl who was weirdly obsessed with my best friend. So a little background information, I was 14 and in 9th grade, and I went to a private school, so there was only 1 class per grade. So my best friend and I were in class together, and we're gonna call her Bella. And then there was this girl, Gabby, who had kind of been friends with for almost a year. Well, Gabby was a whore for popularity. Like anything that the popular kids would ask her to do, she would get on her hands and knees and do it. This woman did not care. Well, we had a project working up, so all 3 of us decided to work on it together. So I invited them over my house, and Gabby said that she needed to use the bathroom. So Bella offered to show her where the bathroom was. Probably 3 minutes later, Bella comes running up the stairs like she just saw a ghost. She was telling me that Gabby took all of her clothes off and tried making out with her. Well, that night they both spent the night, and I wake up in the middle of the night to Gabby pinning Bella to the wall trying to kiss her. But I went back to sleep and acted like nothing ever happened. Fast forward, it got to the point where Bella was actually feeling really unsafe, so her parents switched her schools. Story time about how I ruined my ex-best friend's relationship and reputation in 2 days. So a little background information, I was 14 in 8th grade. I was in a very toxic friend group of 3, and we all secretly talked crap about each other. So 2 of the girls in my friend group decided that they didn't want to be friends with me anymore, for absolutely no reason. The one girl texted me saying, "I don't want to be friends with you anymore," and then the other girl literally just played along with it because she can't think for herself.
She was like, yeah, I've been planning on doing this for like 2 weeks. So I got very embarrassed by this because they started going around the school telling everybody about it. And not to sound like that person, but I was really popular. I had a lot more friends than them, and the only reason why people liked them was because they were my friends. Anyway, so I started texting the boys that they liked. And I was like, hey, I think you should know that they've been talking to other people while they're talking to you. And I just thought that that was really wrong. And when they asked who, I gave them names of boys that they both used to talk to. And then when the girls texted me about it, like for part 2 about how I ruined my ex-best friend's relationship and reputation in 2 days. So like I said, I texted the boys that they liked saying that they were talking to other people. And then of course my ex-best friends got mad and then they started texting me about it saying, oh, why are you lying, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, honestly, I just think it's really wrong for you to try and play these boys who actually have feelings for you. Yes, I know I was a little crazy, but who isn't? Anyway, so then I decided to get my mom involved because I had been friends with these girls for a while. So my mom knew their parents very well. So I told my mom I was really worried about them because they were starting to get into really bad stuff and hanging out with the wrong crowd. So I couldn't be friends with them. And they tried to talk me into doing stuff. So then my mom called their parents. Well, then their mom started to drop them off and pick them up every day because they were grounded. Well, then their mom started to apologize to my mom because their kids were such bad influences on me. And then when everybody asked why we stopped being friends, I told them that they made fun of my grandma who isn't alive. And 4 years later, everybody still hates them.
Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother-in-law out after he referred to himself as the father of my child? Let me explain. I'm a 30-year-old female and my wife is a 29-year-old female. We welcomed our son into the world a year ago, and both of our families are very accepting of us, but my wife's family has this weird obsession with passing on the family genes. So this made adopting out of the question very early on. My wife and I always wanted to start a family, but things got difficult when my wife found out that she was infertile. We knew that her family would be understanding, but I am terrified of pregnancy. My biological mom died in childbirth, which has led me to believe that I wouldn't hold a pregnancy very well. After a few months of brainstorming, my mother-in-law suggested that we do IVF, using my eggs, my brother-in-law's sperm, and let my wife carry the baby. Even though I was skeptical, I gave in because the plan hit all the marks. Her family got to pass on the genes, and my wife and I got to start a family. Plus, I didn't want to carry the baby. We went through extensive counseling and therapy to make sure everyone was on the same page and could handle it, and everything went great. My wife loved being pregnant, aside from the morning sickness. Therapy to make sure everyone was on the same page and could handle it, and everything went great. My wife loved being pregnant, aside from the morning sickness, and we were overjoyed to welcome our new baby boy in the winter. But a problem arose when we were preparing for my son's first birthday when my brother-in-law made a comment about how he should get a say in the planning as the child's father. I was shocked, I cringed, and I told him he wasn't. And told him that he was just providing a piece of him, and he looked me in the eye and said, yeah, so he's our child. My wife's jaw dropped and my mother-in-law wasn't making eye contact. I kicked him out of the house and told him that he couldn't come back until he apologized. But he got angry, which made my wife start to cry. She has always struggled with self-esteem, and this infertility really took a toll on her. For months, I've had to reassure her and tell her what an amazing mom she is. My sister-in-law later that day called me the B word, and I argued that my brother-in-law had no right saying any of that. But she kept yelling, so my wife and I had to cut off contact with her family. Brother-in-law signed away all of his rights and agreed multiple times he's just an uncle. But am I in the wrong for waiting for him to apologize?
Am I wrong for leaving my husband after I found out that he had cancer? So my husband and I had been married for about 10 years before we started becoming distant. A little while after, he actually cheated on me with one of my close friends. After that, nothing was ever the same between me and him. Now, don't get me wrong, I still loved him, but things could never go back to the way they used to be. Eventually, he fell sick, started losing a lot of weight, having trouble breathing, getting random rashes on his skin. So we both agreed that he should go to the hospital to get checked. So he went to the hospital and had to wait a few days to get the results. A few days had passed, so he went back to the hospital to get his results. When he came back home, I asked him what his results were. He said everything was fine, there was nothing to worry about. Then he put his keys on the counter and hopped into the shower. A couple of days before, I had lost my credit card. I looked everywhere for it, couldn't find it, but the only place I didn't look was my husband's car. So I grabbed his keys while he was in the shower and I went to his car to look for my credit card. I was thinking maybe it fell out of my wallet while I was sitting in one of the seats. While I was looking for the credit card, I found a folder from the hospital he just went to. When I looked inside the folder, there was his test result. It was a biopsy test that confirmed he had cancer. So I went back inside to confront him for lying to me. Come back for part 2. This is part 2 of the story of me leaving my husband after I found out that he had cancer. So after I found the positive test results in his car that confirmed he had cancer, I went back inside to confront him for lying to me. I was sitting down waiting for him to get out of the shower. But then I kind of decided that I didn't want to confront him. Our marriage was already going downhill and I was already having thoughts about leaving him anyway. I mean, he did cheat on me with my close friend. I know this might make me sound like a terrible person, but I didn't want to be there for him. I didn't want to be his main support system mentally or physically. And cancer is a lot to deal with. I didn't want to be in and out of the hospital, spending multiple days there, sleeping there, paying all of the bills myself. It would be too much for me. So I decided I was going to pack my things and leave without telling him when or why. And I mean, he didn't know that I knew he had cancer, so he wouldn't think that I was leaving him because of that. So I knew I needed to leave before he decided to tell me he had cancer, so it didn't look like I left him because of that. So the next day, he went to work, and then I went to work. As in packing all my stuff, and then I left. Afterwards, he kept begging me to come back, so I blocked him, and I haven't talked to him since.